What's good, everybody? It's Mike Reed, and welcome to My Life Ministries, where leadership, influence, faith, and evolvement are the principles that we look to live by every single day of our life. And by us living those principles, it helps us to help youth to become motivated young leaders to implement faith every day in their lives as well. Being still in God is a challenge. It most definitely is a challenge. But the one thing that we have to understand is that being still is mandatory when God requires us to be still. And a lot of times, being still becomes a challenge because we are hyper in our thinking. We are very hyper, in our actions. We are very hyper in our movements, and we're hyper in our worry. We're just hyperactive individuals because we want to gain control, and we want to take control, and we want to know the answers, and we want to understand everything, so it causes us to be antsy, when in other words, it causes us to be anxious, when God is telling us to be still. You see, when God says that he's fighting for us, he's fighting for us in every situation of our life. He's fighting for your purpose. He's fighting for, your integrity. He's fighting for, your mission, your ministry. He's fighting for, your family. He's fighting for, just you in general, just as a person, But when God says that he is fighting for you, we have to trust and we have to believe that God is fighting for us to clear the way. He's fighting for us, to make sure that the plans that he has for us, they line up with what he has, to line up with what we need, and to line up with, where we're going in the direction that he's moving us in. It's such a full-on trust with God, when you walk with him, and we have to learn how not to try to understand what God is not allowing us to understand. And until we get that mindset and we allow ourselves to hold dear to that, our life is going to be in shambles, because we are individuals that constantly want to know the next move. We constantly want to know, the next choice and the next decision, and, and the next miracle, and God, this and that. We constantly want to know that information, but it's not God's timing for us to understand what he's doing at this moment. It's up to us to be still and to trust God. A lot of times it's like we get in a position to where it's almost like running on a treadmill. We are consistently running in place, and we're just running in place, and no matter how many times you press the button, whether it's increasing the speed, it doesn't matter what the end results is, or that say, oh man, you ran 3 miles today, 4 miles today. None of that matters. You're still running in the same position, that you started in. You're just running in place, when God wants you to stop running. Stop paying attention to how the increase is going to come. Stop paying attention to try to speed things up because you feel like it's going to do more for you in your life, or you feel like it's going to help you out or benefit you in the way. Stop trying to control the narrative. Stop trying to control the story. Stop trying to control the movement of God. You have to learn how to be still, because when God is fighting his fight, sometimes it takes time. Even when you see things going good for you in your life, you don't understand, nor do you know when God is going to officially open up something, or officially tell you to go here, or officially make this situation change, or make something happen. You have no idea. So being still in God is where your trust is. Being still in God is where your faith is. Being still in God is where everything, it works out according to the plan of God. Because being still, it causes you to full on trust God. It causes you to full on lean and depend on him. It causes you to begin to understand, to open up your ears and your eyes so that you can see God, and so that you can hear exactly what he is speaking to you. That stillness is something that is great for your growth. It's great, for your maturity. It's great for the next steps that are ahead of you in your life, because God has already went ahead of you. He's already fighting for you. So because he's fighting for you, let God fight. Let God fight. Your strength is not his strength. You know, your ways are not his ways. Your wisdom is not his wisdom. Your knowledge is not his knowledge. You know, God, he's so far above who we are. So how dare us, or how dare we think that we can even comprehend or even be on the same level of the movement of God, or even think that we know the plan and we know what's going to happen. You know, even when God speaks to you on things, do you understand that when God gives you something that he chose and he picked that moment for you to understand what he's already been putting together? So a lot of times when we hear things from God and we understand and we say, man, God just spoke to me. You know, God said that he's going to do this. God said that he's going to do that. We feel so good and we feel so privileged because we're like, Lord, you're telling me that. You take what God spoke to you in that moment and you handle what he spoke to you in that moment. But if God is not speaking to you on something else, then you be still. You be still. Even if you face adversities, even if you face things that don't make sense, even if you're waiting on something for God, you be still, because in God's time and in God's way, God will come through and give you the understanding for what he already knows that you're facing, for what he already knows of what you're going through. When you trust in God and you trust in his plan, it's total dependence. It's total dependence. And we have to understand that. When we listen and we obey God, that's when the favor of God, it rests on us. That's when we begin to walk in the supernatural. That's when we begin to walk and to understand, like, God, I was going through this, but he showed up. You know, I didn't know where this was going to come from, but he showed up. You know, God, I was doing this and doing that, and I was asking for this, and I was going through all of these different things, but God showed up. That's walking in the supernatural, because you are obedient to the will of God. You are obedient to the plan of God. And you're okay with listening to what God is telling you to do. The walk with God is not a very easy walk. It's not easy at all. It takes discipline. It takes challenges. You know, it takes, obedience. It takes loving him enough to say, Lord, I'm going to trust you with my life, because my life does not belong to you anyway. It does not belong to you. So the moment that you recognize that, and you stop trying to understand what God understands, and you stop trying to do what God is going to do, and you stop trying to be, your own God in a way and try to make this work and try to make all of these things happen. Quiet yourself. Be still. Be still in God and understand that he's fighting for you. He's making the way. God is all about longevity. That's what he's about. He's about making sure that as long as you're being obedient to him and you're allowing him to change you from the inside out, you're allowing him to correct you, you're allowing him to fix you, you're allowing him to mold you. You are, you're hungry for him and you want God to change your life, and you fully and truly want God to change your life. God knows your heart, so he knows that he can perform the surgery that he needs. But at the same time, with him performing the surgery that he needs to fix you, he's putting together everything that needs to come along with this new person that you have become. And when you trust in God in that, and you walk with God in that, and you believe in God in that, everything begins to work out for the good. Everything begins to work out for the good. God knows. He knows everything. He knows the agenda. He knows the worries. He knows the reasonings. He knows the hows and the whys and, and the whens. He knows all of that. But he wants you to be still in him. He wants you to be still. He wants you to stop trying to run and run and run and run and run. And then you're not going nowhere. And you're thinking because you've ran 5 miles in place, you thinking that you did something or that you've accomplished anything. But just like that treadmill, no matter how you look up there and see how many miles you run, you're still in the same place. Progression only comes with God. Movement only comes with God. Elevation only comes with God. You cannot forget that. Let God be God and do him. And you be you, and you trust God in everything that you do. Have a blessed day.